Welcome to the Real Estate 401k Show. Here are your hosts, Ryan Gertis, Mike Weinstein, and Justin Frederick, helping you build a legacy of wealth through real estate. Powered by the Recon Group at West USA and the Frederick team with Fairway Mortgage. NMLS number 625918.
You know, one thing I've learned, especially recently, we take what we do for granted. We take Arizona real estate for granted because we're here in Arizona. We know the nuances. We know how things work. And I guess it's going on about 2 years now, Ryan and I, we had purchased a home in California and then sold that home in California. And Ryan, what I was struck by is how different the nuances of a real estate transaction were as far as verbiage, the contract, the process. And I just assumed because I've only known Arizona as far as, doing real estate and owning homes. And I just took it for granted, like, well, what we say here, what we do here is the same thing in California, should be the same thing in Rhode Island, should be the same thing in Florida. And I learned it truly is not. And if you're thinking, even remotely thinking, about acquiring real estate here in the great state of Arizona, no matter how experienced you are, we have got a tremendous resource. It's a free copy of our book. It is called Your Personal Guide to Buying a Home. I have been told by my crew, I don't know whether you'll be able to, this will be inverted on you or not, but it does say Your Personal Guide to Buying a Home. And we'd love to get you a free copy of that book. All you got to do is text the word book to 623-AZ-RECON. That's book to 623-AZ-RECON.
I mean, I think the biggest nuance for me with our transaction in California versus here was the fact that they have different escrow companies and title companies.
Yes.
And so when I'm getting a phone call from the escrow company and I'm like, okay, well, let's have a title conversation. And they're like,
we got to call the title company.
Yeah, I don't. It was like, no, that's not us. And I'm like, what in the hell do you do then?
Like, you collected my money. I got to see something.
Why
for
can't I
it.
just use a
good
bank?
job.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, that was being that we go through so many transactions every single month, and we have our systems and processes down. The second that we step over into a different pool, it's like, oh, okay, this is new. This is interesting. And it's not that we weren't able to navigate through it, but it definitely changed up. Like we get a bill, 6 months later for back taxes on it, and I'm like, I can show you right here that the taxes were paid. Oh well, no, they backdate it to the new value, not over to the old value, and then we have to go through escrow on that, but then it gets updated through title, and I'm like, okay.
I actually have a white van that sits in front of my house. It has California license plates that some tax agent from California just lives in, just on the remote chance that the state of California can find a dime that I did not give them. And then he comes knocking on my door.
Yeah.
Justin's like, really? I'm kidding, pal.
I know you.
No, they're going to find you. And so I'm not here to talk smack about California, but boy, you guys could make it pretty difficult to transact there.
So, Justin, you on the lending side, and a great message for all of our podcast listeners, that you're licensed in many, many states across the nation, and you can help people from a ton of different states, do mortgages. And as experienced and as savvy as I am, because of the amount of homes that I've sold, if I had a book like this, Your Personal Guide to Buying a Home in the state of California, I'm not going to lie to you, I might have read it. It's so different.
Yeah, but it would have been 5 fingers thick.
Well,
Probably.
Okay, listen, pal. We joke that this was written at the 5th grade level. Your name's on it. So just
I'm
make
not
fun
arguing.
of me.
I'm not arguing.
I'll tell you on from my point of view, every state is so different. It's incredible, and I'm very happy that this is where my main point of focus is Arizona, because our contracts are so much easier. Maybe it's because I've been so used to it and grown up with these contracts, but they're just so much easier to read. It's so much easier to get to everything. The line items are broken down so much better for me.
Is it because you started here, or is it just that
possibly,
much simpler?
But just like what you said, it's something new. It's different. I haven't really gotten used to all the other states. Maybe Texas is okay for me.
The wild West, just like
California
Arizona.
too.
Alaska was pretty easy.
Alaska's pretty easy.
It just took forever to get appraisers out there.
Yeah, well, yeah. Wisconsin's the same way for appraisers, but I mean, Arizona just seems to be the easiest for me. And maybe, like I said, maybe it's because I learned that contract.
All right, well, if you're thinking about buying a piece of real estate out here in Arizona and curious to the home buying process, we have this free book. It is called Your Personal Guide to Buying a Home. It is a quick and easy 40-page read, but it'll give you the understanding and the nuances involved in buying real estate in Arizona. All you got to do is text the word book to 623-AZ-RECON. Again, text the word book to 623-AZ-RECON. Ryan, let's talk a little bit about the book, the contents of the book, the purpose of the book. How great of a tool is this when we are working with clients that either buying their first house in Arizona or it's been a while?
It makes them dangerous, right? They're not gonna know everything about the business, but they're gonna be dangerous. They're gonna know more than what the average consumer knows. I'll tell you, a big win actually came yesterday. My sister sends me over a text and says, me and Brandon, my nephew, we watch every single one of your episodes, and he's starting to ask intelligent questions. He's starting to ask, how do I invest in real estate? And I mean, he's a smart kid, but for the most part, I know that this isn't super interesting stuff for kids. This is kind of, but I'm starting to realize that it's really important to put this in front of them, because you don't know
It's interesting.
whether or not it's interesting to them or not. And just for him, I know that next time I go back to Skull Valley and we hang out, he's gonna bombard me with questions, and I'm gonna love it. Right? We're gonna have great conversations, but I'm gonna bring one of these over to him, like, hey, check it out, and then the next time that we sit down, let's have a talk. And this is going to give him that vocabulary. It's going to give him the basic understanding of what it takes to go from, hey, I have this thought in my head, I'm going to buy a property, and then closing escrow on it, what to do with it afterwards, etc. So I'm looking forward to that, Brandon.
I love that. I haven't really thought about that, but I didn't. And we've got my 17-year-old Q in studio with us, and he read the book as well. And I tell you, and I've shared it a couple times on the podcast, but one of the greatest moments that I had with Quentin was when we were walking the streets of Waikiki Beach in Honolulu, and we just started talking about what I do, what Dad does, and this whole concept of investing in real estate, the power of real estate, and the fact that, the majority, I think it's 93%. Now that this is being recorded, I'm kind of, when I'm in front of a live audience, facts are facts and figures are figures. You can just make stuff up as you go. But it was something like 93% of the top 500, Forbes 500 richest people in the world own real estate in their portfolio. And it's just fantastic. So I guess from that, the message is, if you're grandma and grandpa right now and you're watching a podcast, good on you.
Yeah.
But if you've got children and grandchildren, stuff like this, what a great resource to just simply, on a basic level, understanding the home buying process. And again, if you'd like to get a copy of that, all you got to do is text the word book to 623-AZ-RECON. Again, text the word book to area code 623-AZ-RECON. Justin, the difference between working with a borrower that has a basic understanding of the process, which you would get from a copy of the book, as to the person who's just like, I was just told to call you, you had a bunch of money, and I need to get a mortgage.
Well, first of all, I like working with both. But you typically get more educated questions from the person that's done it before or has some sort of education on real estate. The questions that they're asking are very point blank to what they're looking to obtain. They know what their goals are with what they're looking to obtain. It tends to be a little bit easier of a process as well.
But it's also when you read the book and you got to call them and say, hey, we got to go now. We're entering the inspection period. There's the borrower that goes, what's the inspection period? And then there's the borrower that has
I need to do an appraisal.
I need to do an appraisal. And then there's the borrower that has read our book and go, okay, I know now I'm in my inspection period. I know I got to get an appraisal. I need to get a clue. I need to get a SPUDS. And if you're like, what's a clue and a SPUDS? That's another great reason why you need to get a copy of the book.
Well, I mean, when you're going through all this stuff, knowing what you're looking at or knowing what to expect is such a big deal when it's the biggest purchase of your life typically. I mean, 99.9% of the time, the next home that you're buying is the biggest purchase of your life. Absolutely. It's important to know.
So I'll quiz you guys. What do you think is the most common thing forgotten during the entire home buying process?
I think homeowners insurance.
Okay. And I would say you're wrong because you're always on me. Do you have homeowners insurance?
Yeah, because I want you to figure it out up front.
I can tell you what.
So you're not last minute grabbing a policy that sucks. Just because you're trying to get it done.
I can tell you that I would say turning on utilities.
And I would 100% agree with you. And that's why, in a big shout out to Julie Godwin, at the Recon Group, the most amazing transaction coordinator on the face of the planet. And if you ever have the privilege to do a real estate transaction with the Recon Group, you're going to be introduced to our savior, the greatest team member, I think the most valuable team member that we have. And I don't know how many times before Julie, it would be like the night before, close of escrow, the night before I'm supposed to hand the keys to the buyer. And I go, oh my gosh, did I give them the name and numbers of the utility companies?
So I was right.
You were right, 100% right. Now, there's no scientific study on that. That's just personal experience.
Yeah, I'm going off of personal experience too.
Yeah, and so so Julie makes it amazing. But there's so many things that go into the home buying process, and if you just like a free copy of our book, no strings attached, but just want a great, easy 40-page read of understanding the home buying process here in the great state of Arizona, all you got to do is text the word book to 623-AZ-RECON. Again, text the word book to 623-AZ-RECON. Julie, we love you.
Thank you for joining us on the Real Estate 401k Show. If you want more information on how to build wealth, click on the link or text us at 623-297-3266. That's 623-AZ-RECON.